I'd like to call to order the Public Works and Planning Committee for April. On the agenda, roll call, please.
Commissioner Cush? Present. Commissioner Piercy?
Here.
Commissioner Peete?
Here.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Dodd?
Here.
Commissioner Boyd?
Here.
Chairman Johnson?
Present.
Thank y'all.
Next on the agenda, we have approved the minutes. Vice Chair Phil Dodd.
I have read the minutes and make a motion for their approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Have any public comments? Yes, sir. Okay, no public comments. All right, solid waste report, Bishop Wagner. And Matt.
I'm Bishop Wagner. I'm your solid waste director. We've got a couple items for you this evening. I'm going to start with my first part, my bulk report, which is since the March report, Rutherford County Landfill has accepted 69.54 tons of brush for a revenue of $2,093. We also managed 914 tires for a revenue of $1,826. The total combined revenue for the month of March is $3,919. Rutherford County Solid Waste disposed of 3,358.23 tons of waste from all sources in the month of March. 2,436.93 tons came from convenience centers and 555.21 tons from schools. We recycled 370.09 tons from all sources. That is a diversion rate of 11.02 for the month of March. That will conclude the bulk of my primary report, and I have some other items that are on here, but if we could vote on that first, that would be great.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve this part of the report. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay.
Thank you. So this is the time of year when we do the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation requires us to do an annual progress report and a solid waste plan update. It was extended from typically it's due on March 31, but they've changed some things in the system this year, and they've extended it to be final submission to the state by April 30th of this year. We are engaged in this within a board, within a multi-county region. The counties consist of Warren, Coffee, Cannon, and ourselves. We go over this, we compile our disposal data together and then our recycling data together, and then the entire report is geared toward making a diversion goal that's been set of 25% of the waste that we manage gets diverted, recycled, and otherwise is not landfilled. So this first part is about what is called the annual progress report, which I've given you the forms that we filled out and supplied to TDEC on your power. It's a bunch of pages that are on your SharePoint. That's just to let you know the questions and answers that they ask us and what we answer to them. And then there's some data that's in there that was provided directly by them to me, which was the disposal values and our recycling values. So in 2023, Rutherford County Solid Waste handled, Rutherford County handled 246,653 tons of waste. 87,070.45 tons were diverted or recycled. So when you add those together, that's a total of 333,673.45 tons. And that's waste that came from our county convenience centers, it came from industry, it was all of the waste that was generated within Rutherford County and disposed and buried within Rutherford County, or managed from within Rutherford County. That creates a diversion rate of 26.08 for the county for last year. So I just got done telling you that we're engaged in a multi-county region. The data from the other counties is held by TDEC or the other counties, and none of us within the region in this new system can look at or see any of the other data that the other counties have compiled. So this number, this 26.08, is not the final regional diversion calculation. However, the weight of material that Rutherford County manages, the contributed weight that comes from the other 3 counties is usually not offset much more than 0.5% up or down when we add those in. So I'm confident in reporting that we have met our 25% diversion goal as required by the state, and am asking for you to allow me to bring this information before the Solid Waste Board for approval at the board. I believe it's on the 16th of April.
Bishop,
Yes.
can you remind me what the counties, which all counties again? Rutherford,
It's
Coffee, what?
Rutherford, Coffee, Cannon, and Warren.
Bishop, if we were to fall under the 25%, what repercussion, if any, do we get from that?
What would happen is the state would come and do a solid waste audit on us, effectively looking at our activities, how we could increase our diversion. They use it more as a teaching tool than anything else. In the past, they have used meeting the goal or not meeting the goal as an evidence or a restrictor versus qualifying us for grant funding. I did not hear that in the grant meetings that I've had this year, that they're still utilizing that.
So there's no financial or write-up kind of a thing. It's more of a goal that everybody tries to strive at.
Yes, sir. It's a statewide goal.
If you're looking for a motion to move that forward, I would make one now.
We have a motion and a second to approve the report. All in favor? All opposed?
Thank you. The third item I have here is the second part of what I have to bring to the board on the 16th, which is our 10-year plan update. So we are required by the state to have a solid waste plan, of which we do. Our solid waste plan up to this point has been modified year after year as we grow with additional statistics or additional infrastructure. It identifies our needs and the direction that we want to go as a county. The update that I have for you this year is that I'm in the process of developing a new 10-year plan with the construction of our solid waste transfer station, with the necessity for us to maximize our ability to divert as much material from landfills as possible. In that process, the plan will include a lot of those variables that will start to present themselves and become evident as we go into the next phase of managing waste here in Rutherford County. As what I plan on doing is I can bring that plan up, of course, after I've brought it before the mayor and we've had those discussions. I want to bring it before Public Works and have you all have plenty of time to review it and participate in the final development of what that plan looks like and what the needs are of the county. And I'm anticipating that I'll have some draft to you prior to us doing this report next year, so that we can bring this into the report next year. But there are some variables right now that we're going to have to kind of figure out before we get there to know where we're going. But the ultimate, I think the broad stroke of it is we want to remove and reduce the amount of material that we're sending to landfill currently as much as possible to reduce our cost for managing the waste that we're going to be taking over the transfer station to dispose of in the future.
Thank you, Chair. Bishop, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused on the dates. You're working on a draft for the new and improved 10-year plan.
Yes, sir.
And if I heard correctly, you hope to have a draft to us by the next meeting?
No, by next year, reporting year for the annual progress report. I'm hoping by next year when we do the APR, it won't be a plan update, it'll be a submittal of a new plan.
Okay, and when is that 10-year plan due to the state or to the regional board?
The update itself, the plan itself is due whenever we present it to the board and the board accepts it, but the updates are due annually. So look at this second thing more as I'm sitting here telling you that the update to the plan is that we're devising a new plan based on the new direction we're going.
Okay.
So in this 10-year plan, that includes the operation of the transfer station and how we're going to operate it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So are we not going to know how we're going to operate this until next year on the 10-year plan?
No. This will include the projections that come from once we've worked out kinks in operation to know. Think of I'm trying to set the goals for solid waste management past a year or two and into what our needs going to be 10 years from now. What goals do we expect to set for ourselves as far as we grow? How are we going to manage recycling and diversion, for example? Are we going to add convenience centers to our model? Are we going to look at other ways to collect? How are we going to increase diversion? Things of that nature. That's what the plan is really about, the broader stroke. That's a good question.
Mr. Piercy?
So, Bishop, are you not making any changes to the plan you're going to present to the board this month?
No, nothing that I present to the board is going to be new. The update will be I'm informing the board that we're working on the plan for the next 10 years.
So what they've got to approve this year is a mirror of what they approved last year?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Prepared to entertain a motion to pass this section of the report. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed?
And finally, from me, we have what is I believe you all have a copy of this on your SharePoint. Do you have a copy of the development agreement for water and sewer service to property outside of city limits? What this is, in a nutshell, is an agreement to hook onto water and sewer services for the transfer station to the Murfreesboro City services that are on the other side of the Stones River. This will have to be voted on. I believe it happens this week for the city. And we would like to have a vote on it before it goes to them for their vote.
Could you give us just a summary of what this includes?
It's the water and sewer connections for the transfer station. It's allowing us to be what and I may get this verbiage wrong, we're being included as customers to them to be able to hook onto their services. I think some of the keynotes that I notice in here is that they've allowed for us to bypass some of what they would consider their regular requirements that they would have for new customers as far as the landscaping and beautification portions that they would have, some of the materials that they would restrict us to use. They've bypassed those requirements and are allowing us to build it as we have it designed and as it's out to bid to design now, so.
So Bishop, the powers to be, both for the county and the city, have sit down and have verbally worked out this issue, right? All we've done now is put a contract on paper. You need to have this go to full commission for vote, and then they need to have it go to city council for vote. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Do you anticipate any kickback from city council? I mean, as far as we know, the city has worked out all the bugs that they wanted and vice versa, correct?
As far as I understand, this has been reviewed and vetted by all leadership parties on both sides.
Blessed by all parties up to
Yes.
this point. Okay, thank you. Do you need a motion to carry this forward to full commission?
Yes, please.
I would like to make that motion.
Here we have a motion and a second. Okay. Commissioner P.
What is the cost associated with us going into this agreement? I understand that there would be I assume a monthly charge or whatever their fee would be, but are there any other costs associated with this agreement?
There are some costs that are associated. They're listed on page 6 of 8. They're under charges and fees, 5.1 and 5.2. They've broken it up into basically connection unit cost. They've got us listed as a single-family unit, and that single-family unit is at 260 gallons per day use of water. The anticipated use of this facility is 5,000 gallons per day. So you would add that. I think that's a 20 times change for that.
So at the current rate, what's the cost?
You forgive me, I just received this before the meeting. I am going to estimate it's going to be in the 75,000 range for connection and everything after the fact. Has anybody got a good math head in here that's figured that out for me?
I see 260 gallons per day for a single family, and we're 5,000 gallons?
Correct.
The water fee looks like 23,000.
And then there'll be also that 2,500, yeah, that'll be
With the same gallons?
same GPT. The water and sewer are related because the water is for wash down utility of the facility, and it gets discharged into the sewer system.
This is something that we need to do.
72K.
I just want to make sure that I've got the figures right, and when you come to budget with this, make sure you know what the exact amount for the water fee and for the sewer fee.
I'm seeing 72,000 I'm just going to claim that as a estimate,
You're talking about a yearly fee.
one-time fee.
It's a one-time fee.
Okay. And then you'll pay a monthly rate.
Yes, the regular water utility rate or sewer utility
And that's
rate.
something I wanted to know what it was too. That's what I thought you were talking about at first with the $1,200 per single family, but that's just hookup fee.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So I wasn't too far off with my 75 spitball, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Roll call, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Cush? Commissioner Piercy? Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner James? Yes. Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Aye.
Thank you.
That's all I have. I believe we have Donna Barrett.
I've got a question for Bishop before he leaves the stand.
Yes, sir.
This probably happened before you come on board, but we had discussed in length of improving all our convenience centers like we were doing the one at Leanna. And I know it's pretty well close to being done or complete. The one at Smyrna is in real good shape, they say. Do you have any plans to move on with any more?
I will say yes, we have plans to move on with more. We're looking at how that feasibly is going to happen and financially is going to happen as far as the way we'll structure it and build it into the overall model of the solid waste department. I think that's going to be a big part of one of the components to the overall 10-year plan that I'm working on, one of the variables that I'm looking into. But no, it's my intention that we continue on with optimizing and increasing our ability to serve the public with facilities that are on par with or exceed the level of the new facilities that we've created.
Okay, thank you. This question is for Commissioner Cush. Do you remember when we were here and we had a breakdown of what was going to have to be spent for each one? It was like $600,000 here, $700,000 there. And did we not set the money aside to do that when Ketron was here? For all of them? Yes, for each one, out of max budget.
Obviously, that we would propose.
Right. But do you think we put money aside for 4 or 5 rather than just 2?
Yes.
That's what I thought. So the money's there somewhere.
There were 4 that were approved and 3 were built. There's still money from that 4th one that was originally going to be placed on Landfill Road that hadn't been constructed. And there was a little bit of money that was left over because Rockville, the design for Rockville changed to reduce some of its financial requirements as well.
Okay, thank you. Are you moving forward with anything to do with maybe putting more attendance in the centers so we can go ahead and keep them? We had also talked about keeping them open more hours, more days. Are you looking at that in your plan?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Bishop, could you kind of elaborate on what, if anything's, going on at Sand Hill? Any plans or whatever situation we have there?
As far as what specifically?
Lease agreement, or are we looking for land to move it somewhere else? Just what are our plans there?
So Sand Hill Convenience Center, 300 Sand Hill Road, we have a site there that we've been leasing from the city of Laverne. They have given us a lease agreement contract that's within review with the county attorney. I've got to touch base with him to find out what the status of that is for that center. I've also spoken on multiple times with Mayor Jason Cole and with Commissioner Davidson on potential spots that may be there, real estate that might be available. I've also spoke with Mike Hughes at County Engineer's office to see if there was some property that might be available or that the county may already own that we could potentially spot for a future site. So far, we haven't found any locations that would be either permitted appropriately or suitable for the location of that site, but we're not, I haven't given up hope. I think there's a large population there that need an increased level of service that if we can do it, I'd intend to get them that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions?
So would you like me to introduce Ms. Barrett? Or you want to? Donna Barrett is currently the acting secretary for the regional board. She is also the steward of a grant fund that she's going to just share with us and give us an update on the status of what's been going on with that fund within the board and with legislature.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Bishop. Hello, everybody. It's been about 6 months since I was here updating you before. My last update was October 9th, 2023. Let me give you some updates about the regional board and its actions, and then we'll get into the grant that Bishop has referenced. As Bishop mentioned, he and I are 2 members of a 12-member Central Tennessee Regional Solid Waste Planning Board. That regional board has representation on it from Rutherford, Cannon, Coffee, and Warren counties. And then any of the cities within those counties that provide pickup services to their residents. So we have, not McMinnville, Tullahoma, Manchester, and Woodbury. We have had a couple of staff changes or member changes on that board recently. Our chairman, who had served on that board for 25 years, has decided he's going to reduce his community involvement at the age of 72 and has resigned from that board and has been replaced with another member from Warren County. Then we also had one member move out of the county he represented, and we'll be getting a new member on the board for that. Our last meeting was in March. Initially, that meeting was to be held to approve the APRs that typically are due the end of March. However, with the change in software from TDEC, as Bishop has mentioned, a little extra time was needed on their part to accept the data and a lot more time needed on our part to learn the software. And we're still encountering some issues with being able to access everything that we've been able to access in the past when it comes to each county's individual information. The reason Bishop asked you for the approval of a resolution was for the APRs was at the request of our board. It is one of 13 items that are required for each annual update. You were supposed to be providing those resolutions of support annually with Bishop and I's involvement on the board and review of what the statutes were. We strengthened the things that were needed. So this is something new that you've just started doing the last 3 years. So I appreciate your help on that and reviewing that and being aware of what's coming before us, because our approval is dependent on your approval for that information. So I thank you for that support. Before I go too much further in that, I did want to take a moment to update everybody. I received word this afternoon that the Coffee County mayor passed away. He was found at his home early this morning. He was a vital part of our regional board, very supportive of our efforts for that. He also was a personal friend of mine. I had served with him in the General Assembly for years. So I ask that you keep he and his family in their prayers and know that we will have a little bit of a hiccup with our board at the moment going forward with some of the things we want to do until they have the appropriate time to address any issues and mourn his passing. So please keep Judd Matheny and his family in your prayers. The Central Tennessee Solid Waste Planning Board meets at least yearly to approve the annual reports. Here in the last couple of years, we've tried to increase those meetings for various reasons. One, because there's more duties that we should be involved in. So we try to have 2-3 meetings, if not more, when we can annually. Those meetings have increased in regularity due to the lawsuit that Republic filed against the Central Tennessee Board. From here on, I'm going to call that the board. It's an awfully long word staff to get out. When they sued the board over our denial of the landfill expansion request in '22. To give you an update on that situation, we won the initial lawsuit. The courts ruled in our favor. We received that information on September 8th, 2023. On October 6th, 2023, Republic appealed that decision. We did not learn until March of this year exactly what those reasons were for the appeal. So we have been working closely with our legal staff to draft our response to their reasons for the appeal. We have we asked for a 60-day time period. Normally, it's 30 days to respond, but with Easter and spring break and all of those coming along, both sides agreed to a 60-day time period for us to give our rebuttal back to that. In essence, we're probably going to be in court on that for another 9 months to a year, and know that there won't be an update on that, another update that I can give until at least we do our rebuttal at 60 days. I would suggest that I don't do any type of report on that until Republic gets their chance to do their 30-day response to our 60-day response. So we'll keep you involved and informed as how things go, but that's where we are on that lawsuit. The second issue that the board took up on to assist Rutherford County and the region with issues as it relates to our solid waste was the flow control resolution that we passed last year. We passed, it was to go into effect limiting the flow of garbage that was brought into Rutherford County to only the counties in the region, which were Rutherford, Coffee, Cannon, and Warren. That is something we're allowed to do statutorily. It is a rule, regulation we can implement, and we did unanimously with the board. It is now, we partner when it comes to those types of efforts with TDEC. They have the enforcement authority for that. And we have asked them to proceed with that enforcement authority. And we received a letter in February of last year with their response being they didn't think that was the right thing to do at this moment. So we will once again ask them to revisit that and enforce the resolutions and the regulations and enforce the statute that allows us to implement that flow control, and I will keep you updated on where we stand with that. But we have not abandoned our efforts to do everything we can to assist the county and the region with alternatives from here going forward. The other issue that Bishop brought up for, and the chairman has asked me to report on, is the pilot program that we presented and this body entered into with our board September of 2022. And that was an effort to, again, maximize the state, local, and any regional or third-party alternatives and partners we have to for diversion, recycling, anything prior to utilizing the landfill. That's been the statewide plan and stated plan for the 30 years that the statute has been in place for solid waste diversion. It has been the federal guidelines, and those will tighten up even more in 2035 on the federal level. They actually are looking to increase diversion requirement rates of 50% versus the 25% that we are at now statewide. So anything we can do to maximize that and bring all the parties together, that is the goal of the pilot program that the state authorized us to enter into. Some things have happened since then that have not allowed us as much progress as I would like to have. In May of last year, the General Assembly requested the individual parties that were interested to come forward with their solutions, their recommendations. And at that time, we had 3 of the landfill owner-operators from across the state present to the Senate Energy Committee, and their recommendations were increase the landfill. I'm paraphrasing, so I'm going to go ahead and say that. I have the reports if anybody wants them. But their resolutions were simply increase the landfill sizes. And in one of them, it was recommended that the local and regional boards and control be removed because, as I quote, we were impassable roadblocks. After those reports were presented, I asked the Senate Energy Committee if I could present and represent those of us that are trying to do something with diversion, with recycling, and whatnot. So January 31st of this year, I presented before the Senate Committee, and I admitted that, yes, we all are in agreement that there is something that needs to be done. I don't think that you'll have Republican and I not standing side by side and saying we need a solution. The solution is not getting rid of local control. Every senator, every House member, every county commissioner here runs on the best control, the best government is local government. And I asked them to not take away the local control when it comes to what we fund for our taxpayers, what we provide for our taxpayers, and the responsibilities we have for our cities and counties. After that presentation, the Senate Energy Chairman and I discussed the possibility of a statewide task force. What prompted that, in addition to my presentation, was requests from other entities. There was the presentations made beginning March of 2022. There were litter organizations that wanted task force to see how they could improve stop littering, not improve littering, but stop the littering that's going on statewide. So many organizations were coming and asking for a small task force for various things. And the Senate Energy Chairman rolled everything that was being presented into a task force. He's asked me to serve on that task force. The task force has passed Senate Finance. It's passed the subcommittee. It is before Senate Finance right now, and it will be voted on behind the budget. Now, what that means is they're going to pass the budget first. The last week of session, they'll pass what they call a flow motion. I'm stuck on flow control here for a reason. They'll pass a flow motion, and things will start moving quickly. They won't have to wait 24 hours for a bill to be voted on and passed. So they'll pass the budget, and then anything after that that they want to fund will come then. So I don't anticipate that task force being fully passed until the very last week of session, and that typically is the last week of April, first week of May. But I have very good assurances that that's going to happen. It passed unanimously through the committees. I've talked to the House chairman of the same committee, and he's solidly behind the task force. So a lot of what we were already working on for the pilot program will be rolled in, will be brought to that task force, and more hands and more entities coming to help us with that. So that's going to be the biggest delay in any major progress that I could have brought to you tonight. With that said, I'll tell you some of the things that have progressed that will be part of the pilot program efforts that will go forward to the task force on the state level. We identified new partners during the Senate hearing. By the time I finished the 36-minute presentation I gave, there were 5 people lined up that represented different solid waste, diversion, or recycling entities throughout the state, asking how they could help. So they are identified and willing to provide any information we need, and we gathered some additional end users, solid end users, where it's true recycling, not just taken out of the area and we don't know where it goes from there. So I was very pleased to identify those 5 new partners that can participate with us. New annual conferences have been identified. That there's one coming up in Arkansas, in Hot Springs later this year, that I and several others will be attending. And at the same time, where we're learning those, we lost one of our big resources, which was the Southeastern Recycling Development Council. It had been around for about 20 years and had been very beneficial in identifying, again, those end users of recycling products, the cardboard, the glass, wherever those were, and all throughout the Southeast. That organization dissolved at the end of this year. End of last year, the executive director felt it was time he retired. So the information is there. We don't have the executive director anymore, so that's being absorbed by other organizations, and Arkansas's recycling group is one of those that have absorbed that, so I'll participate with that and gather that information. When I mentioned the bill that's the task force and merging all the other efforts that were brought before the Senate committee, I also have to ask you to keep Senator Sutherland, who's the chairman of that committee, in your prayers as well. He had a heart attack on the Senate floor yesterday. Fortunately, one of the other senators is a heart surgeon. He sat 2 seats down from him, so help was provided quickly. I don't know what that does with who's going to sponsor the bill now, or who will carry it forward. The vice chairman of the committee was very familiar with it as well, but Senator Sutherland had been our champion on that. I do expect it to be picked up and carried forward in the event he doesn't come back to session for the rest of the year. I don't know that. I'm just trying to go ahead and plan for what might have to happen. Any of our other goals that we have, again, they're being extended till we see what the statewide task force brings to the table with all the other players, to see what additional resources we have that we don't have to go out and recreate or hunt down. So as it relates to our income benefit goals with grant writers and all those other programs, we hope we have more resources that will come to the table with the first task force meeting. We have spent no funds out of this pilot program yet. With the idea of a task force coming together, I want to make sure the program we present isn't something where we have to discard in 6 months because the statewide program has overridden what we were doing or is better than what we were proposing. So I don't want to spend the money unnecessarily or be wasteful with it. So the funds will be spent very appropriately for something that I know will be long-lasting for the county and for the state. The demographics previously had been just our region. The goal now is that this will go statewide, and it will be something replicable from county to county. And if we're successful, who knows, we may make this nationwide. We can always keep our fingers crossed for that. So just to reiterate some of the hurdles we've had to overcome since October, and quite frankly, since the beginning of the pilot program. But here recently, our efforts that were needed on the response to the Republic appeal, the APRs that are due, and the change in our leadership within the board, as well as the software changes with TDEC, and then the pending statewide task force. So those have been a few obstacles we're overcoming, and we'll get there. We anticipate everything being ready for April, both on our side and the state side. If anything changes, I'll send word back through Bishop and let him be the one to bring that news to you. But with that, I'll stand for any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Donna, thank you for that report. A couple of things. Does this task force have a name yet, or an acronym, or what did you just call it, the task force?
Right now, it's labeled task force.
Okay.
I'm sure by the time it makes it through the House and Senate, they'll either officially give it one, or we'll come up with something clever.
And did I hear you right? You have already been appointed to the task force?
I've been asked to serve on the task force.
Okay, and what do you think the total makeup body count will be for a task force like this?
I think the number is 12 or 15.
Okay. Is that too many?
I think so.
Okay.
I know it will be a governor appointee, the Senate chairman, Senate committee chairman, the House committee chairman, and then I think from there it was 4 from each grand division.
Okay. All right. And you did say that this is a statewide from
Correct.
Tip to tip. Okay. I mentioned it last night, we had steering, and now we have a lobbyist, Will Denami, and I think you've met Will. And he and I talked about this task force. And, I expressed to him the importance of the fact that we need to keep our hands on the control. Any county does, not just Rutherford, but we need to keep the hands. And Will was somewhat familiar with what was going on. But long story short, I don't know if these $2.5 million monies can be used for a lobbyist. If you see, or if Will sees, or if you want to suggest to the mayor's office or the commission that we may need to set aside some lobbyist money to help fight this fight, please don't be afraid to raise your hand, okay? So that's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome. And in regards to that, I don't see this task force as being a fight. I see it as a welcome ally. I will send each of you the link to the presentation I made, and every member of that subcommittee were welcoming of any information we can bring, any resources to go down this route. They all know that we have this issue all across the state, and they welcome any solution we have to this that limits our reliance on landfilling. You know, the mindset and the culture has changed to such a manner that this is what the community wants, this is what we need, both as good stewards of our land and our taxpayer dollars, and it's the right thing to do. If you can find a use for, as I've presented to the committee, a lot of the items that are recycled, actually all the items we recycle right now, glass, cardboard, paper, metal, that's a commodity. And we should be treating it as such. You know, it shouldn't be something we're burying and throwing away when it has a value to either us or to an end user or to our environment, where we're no longer having to cut down trees. Or, for example, as I told the committee, we have 8 tile manufacturers, glass tile manufacturers in the state of Tennessee. I met with one of them, and I asked him, I said, I know you can use recycled glass in your production methods. How much can you take? He said, I can take all you can give me. I said, no, I need you to quantify that for me. He said, no, you're not understanding. I can take every bit of glass you bring me. It's the logistics in getting it there. And right now, we're having to pay to take our glass off. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So if we can't make money at it, at a minimum, I want to get rid of the expense we have to get rid of it. It's just common business sense to do something like that.
First of all, I want to thank you for your diligence and your dedication. You've been hammering your head against the wall kind of like we have for the last several years, and I want you to know how much it's appreciated. I did have one question of your notes, and maybe I missed it, but you've got a grant writer identified and under review. Are you, I assume that's for the board, your board, current board. Is there any way we can utilize the county's grant writers to help you with that, or would you need it?
That's a possibility. Again, this was in correlation with the pilot program and something that was regional. The initial grant writer that was identified has now moved on to a bigger and better position, and I don't know their availability. But let me get the task force together, make sure there's not that resource somewhere else, but we'll take all we can get as soon as we identify the grants we're going to go after.
Of course, we've had a long-term grant writer, and she's been trying to retire the last 3 or 4 years, and we hadn't let her yet. But we've also hired a new grant writer who's working with her. So, there's possibilities there. But anyway, let us know if we can help.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cameron.
Mr. James.
Do you anticipate having any issue finding a new sponsor for the bill for Senator?
No, not at all. Not at all. The vice chairman of that committee is Senator Shane Reeves, and he has been involved in these conversations all along as well. So I do not anticipate an issue with that. It just may mean a little extra time on my part getting them up to speed on some of the terminology or details that we discussed for the bill.
Well, please come back and let us know if there's anything that we can do as a body or as individuals to kind of help push some weight.
The main concern is just making sure it doesn't fall through the cracks. Because each member of the House and Senate can only carry a certain number of bills, and they become the resident expert on those. And if we're looking at a bill behind the budget and everything passing that last week at lightning speed, it's just staying on top of things and not letting something accidentally get missed or not put in somebody's file. So as soon as I know whether or not Senator Sutherland will be there for the remainder of the session, I would already be in touch with him periodically for the bill itself. So now it's just a little more due diligence and paying more attention on a twice-a-day basis instead of a daily basis.
Also, with the TDEC software delays and the APRs are due, what kind of timeline do you think we're granted? Or the additional timeline while you're waiting for this to come through?
They have told us they're ready for it end of April. So we anticipate, all we have to go on is their word and our end-use interface with the software. So as soon as they can merge everything together, I think one of the issues was previously we could see everything as it was being put in. Now we can't till after it's all put in and approved. And same thing with the additional counties in our region. So it's just a matter of what we can see to confirm, yes, it's all correct. If there are any hiccups, we'll definitely request that TDEC help make those right, because it's their software pick. It's what they're choosing for us to utilize, not something we chose to do. So the goal will be to make sure that they assist us in making sure everything runs seamlessly, or at least gets us to the same information we were able to access in the previous years with previous software.
That leads me to the other question I had was on TDEC. Are they not required to enforce? Is it policy or statute?
That's a very long discussion. Can I get back with you on that?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you.
And then my last question, I'll stop. With our current, I believe the number that Bishop gave us was 26.8 diversion rate. Is that right, Bishop?
I thought it was 26.1. 26.1.
26.1, okay. How hard would it be for us to raise that number as we stand, as with knowledge technology, our evaluations now, if we needed to raise that with you gave, what was the year you gave, 2030?
2035 is when the federal government is chosen the 50% mark.
But like what we're looking at today, I'm just curious, how much more could we really kind of squeeze the water out of this?
Depends on how much effort you want to put into diversion. This isn't something I can come and tell you. I can tell you I can do it, but that means when we bring forth the ideas and say this, we need to do things this way, we need to fund this, we need to change processes and policies, that's going to be what gets us to that. We can do all the research there is. It's going to take the efforts of the lawmakers to support what we bring forward and say this is what we want to do because this is what our constituency wants and it's the right thing to do.
And that's where I'm getting at, was seeing the effort is less academic and more actually rolling your sleeves up, getting it.
I can tell you the will of the people is out there for it. I see it every day.
I agree.
The questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So sorry to hear about Mayor Judd Matheny passing and Senator Sutherland having a heart attack. And if you would, just keep them in your prayers and their families and friends. Planning and Engineering, Doug DeMasi, excuse me. Director. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, committee. Hope everybody's doing well today. Doug DeMasi, County Planning Director. I just have our normal reports for you to consider. The first is the available lot inventory through March of this year. If you look on your report for those lots that are available currently for building permits, you'll see that there is a total of 1,064 available lots in the unincorporated county area. That is up a little bit from this time last year. As you can see, about 42 lots. It's up slightly from last month, just 3. We actually had, I think, if I remember the report right from Ms. Bell's report coming up, 86 single-family residential permits. So we've had pretty robust activity going on, but we've also had several sections that were recorded that were larger sections within the last month or so. So that's the reason you're seeing the increase, but building activity does seem to be pretty robust at this time. So if there's any questions on that, I'll be more than happy to discuss those. If not, I will go into the rezoning report. We will have 3 rezoning requests for your consideration next week. The first is by Andrew Vahinger for Persica Capital, located along Butler Drive. The existing zoning is residential medium density. Proposed zoning is employment and activity center. This will probably the location will probably look familiar to commissioners. The applicant had adjacent property to the north of these properties zoned EAC back in February of this year. They would have brought them all at the same time. However, they were working with multiple heirs on the subject property, so they were able to get some under contract, but not others. So really, their plan was to have all of these under contract at the same time, just didn't quite work out that way. So they have included a concept plan with your agenda packets, which is on your iPads. So the development plans for the property included construction of a pretty large building, about 137,000 square feet, used for a logistics facility. This will have entrances onto both the existing Butler Drive with an additional access point to the west along the realigned Butler Drive, which is a city-run project, Murfreesboro, that's currently in progress. I don't know if they're actually constructing it yet, but they've got a design, and there is a conceptual design in your packets as well on your iPads. Most of the discussion we had, there wasn't just a whole lot of discussion at the public hearing. Nobody spoke during the public hearing on that, at least from the public. The Planning Commission did have questions about stormwater detention and access to the new Butler Drive realignment. The applicant's representative did state that they were working on obtaining additional property and/or easements to access that road. Our county engineer also stated that the existing Butler Drive, as it exists, will remain, but it'll become a right-in and right-out only intersection. Following discussion, the Planning Commission did vote to approve it by a unanimous vote. Our second item is for property located at 5845 Franklin Road. This is by Mr. Jeffrey Turner. The property is currently zoned residential medium density, and they are asking for office professional zoning. Development plans for the property include interior renovations of an existing house, about 2,600 square feet, to make it functional for a professional office space. The applicant currently owns property immediately next door to this at 5871, I believe it's to the west, and he had it rezoned similar, office professional, back in 2022, and he's done this with a couple other homes along Franklin Road over the last few years as well. He doesn't have a specific tenant at this time, but expects something like the other properties he's rezoned along Franklin Road. He has like a pest control business in one, things like that. He also has provided a concept plan with this application. Again, that is with your staff report. Nobody, again, spoke during the public hearing on this, but the Planning Commission did have some concerns about stormwater runoff. One of our commissioners asked if it'd be possible to do some sort of like a regional pond, quote unquote, that would serve both properties. This is a possibility since the applicant owns the existing tract and also the adjacent tract. Our county engineer answered again that it was possible, but they would have to do an assigned agreement for that off-site consent to drain, basically, is what they would have to do for something like that. But following discussion, again, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote. And our last application is by Stan Bennett for Redeemer Classical Academy, yes, located along Veterans Parkway. Existing zoning, again, RM. Proposed zoning is institutional. The Redeemer Classical Academy has been operating in a temporary location at the Fellowship Bible Church on Veterans Parkway, which is to the north of this, closer to the intersection of Franklin Road, Highway 96. They're looking to purchase this property, or at least lease a portion of it for purchase into the future, and they'd like to rezone this property to institutional to build a new permanent school location. Their current enrollment is somewhere around 65 to 70 students. Future enrollment is projected to be upwards of about 120 over the next 5 to 10 years. Their full build-outs anticipated to be about 300, and again, that could be in about 15 years or so. They do show on the concept plan with your agenda packets some potential additional facilities on the property, like a preschool, some recreational fields, things like that. But you'll see their first phase is for 3 buildings, about 13,200 square feet on about a little over 6.5 acres. And you'll see they also have the paved driveway, parking areas, et cetera. The institutional zone was created for these type of uses. We've considered a couple of these rezonings over the last few months, but the reason we recommended this, A, was because of the use, but B, institutional is also more of a limited zone, doesn't allow a lot of retail, actually doesn't allow any retail or anything like that. So in the event that this didn't happen, you're not going to have a Dollar General pop up on the property or something similar on that. Nobody, again, spoke during the public hearing on this one either. The Planning Commission, did have questions about septic and/or sewer use. There is a soil site on a portion of the property. This property was actually bisected, for lack of a better word, by Veterans Parkway when they constructed the road. So the majority of the property is on one side, the eastern side of Veterans. There's a small portion on the western side, so they're going to have to bore under the road. That's where the soil site is on that smaller portion on the other side of Veterans Parkway. So they're not accessing the city sewer for this. There were some questions about turn lane improvements. They are proposing a left turn lane into the property. It's already shown on the concept plan. And the applicant will have to work with the city since they are responsible for maintenance of this particular road, and that's because of the Southwest Loop agreement. And following discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend approval, again, by a unanimous vote. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have on any of these rezonings.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. James.
Doug, on this last one right here, the map's zoomed in pretty good. I see Veterans Parkway, but I'm not sure. Kind of need to cross. Whereabout is the proposed school?
The school, you mean along Veterans Parkway?
Yeah,
I'd say a mile or two off of Franklin Road, probably, yeah, between Franklin Road and Highway 99.
Okay.
It's in that area.
Yeah, it was just, the map was zoomed in enough to where I didn't have a cross-reference to see. Okay. The other question I had was, let's see if I can get there. Did you say on the Butler Drive that the city intends to, if I can find it, intends to cap off the old Butler Drive?
Well, it's going to be right in, right out.
Right,
yeah, it's not going to be like a dead, it'll be accessible, but just right in, right out.
I thought I heard that. I just wanted to double check that as well. But I was looking at the drawing on that. Was it contingent on them having access to the back, or is it still?
Well, they want access to the back because that's where the two-way traffic is going to be.
The new
but they know they need to work on obtaining the easements and things that they need for that. But they would still have access on the other side. Okay. It would just, if they were limited to that access, they would just have to go around the world to get to, Butler Drive off of South Church Street to get access it that way.
And the last question on the last one there, with the two houses being, having owned the neighbor and then wanting to cross over and turn this one, is it a suggestion from staff to have a retention pond, a small regional pond, or is it?
Oh, it was a question that the Planning Commission had. We would entertain that. He would just have to show us on a site plan how it would work, because if it's approved, he'll have to do a site plan showing the parking improvements and things like he did for the property next door. We would have to see how the topography lays out and everything. Could it drain that way? It may just make more sense to each one have its own small detention pond. The one on the 5871 has a small area for detention already. So if it would work where they could expand that and do a consent to drain, fine. If not, they'll have to figure out another way to make it work. So it wasn't a requirement.
It's not a requirement, but a suggestion.
Right.
Okay, now I see what you're saying. Okay.
Any other questions?
Move to approve the report.
We have a motion and a second to approve the report. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Building Codes Report. Tanya Bell, Director.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Tanya Bale. I'm the Building Codes Director for Rutherford County, and I'm going to give you my report nice and short and sweet. Get you all out of here. So in the month of March, Building Codes issued a total of 359 permits. 86 of those were single-family dwellings. That's up from 66 the month before, for a total revenue of $268,589.50. And if there's no questions on that, I'll move on to school facilities tax and development tax. In the month of March, our school facilities tax was $642,646, and we did not collect anything in development tax in the month of March, bringing our accumulative fiscal year total to $4,872,774.50. up about right at $1 million from the same point last year. All right, and if nobody has any questions, I will go on to zoning enforcement. We we had a total of 149 zoning enforcement inspections in the month of March. And building inspections, we had 1,569.
Any questions? We have a motion and a second to approve the report. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you so much, and have a great
Hey,
evening.
Tanya,
Yes.
I just wanted to thank your lunchtime operator for assistance this week. Very helpful, and appreciated it.
That was me. Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Highway Department. We have no report from the Highway Department. Hey, any other business? Hey, Commissioners, before you, I have a copy of a letter I received from Mike Klassen from Republic. Commissioner P., I believe, had requested this. Mr. P., do you have anything to say on this?
The only thing I wanted to say, there was some question about whether we would be able to take the waste that we collect at our convenience centers and take them to our future center and then load it onto a large truck and take that to Republic and dump at no cost. And this letter confirms that that is what we can do. Personally, that's the reason that I voted to vote for this at that time. And anyway, this just confirms that we can do that. I know that Mr. Wagner had in the past indicated one of his big costs was for replacing tires, and the many trips that the smaller trucks take expose the tires that many more times versus maybe one truck they can hold. I don't know what the ratio is, if it's 4-to-1, 10-to-1, or whatever. That would save us at least on tires, if nothing else. So that new transfer station, when it comes online, we've had problems in the past, especially around holidays, with these gondolas being full, and we hadn't been able to empty them because of backup or weather, whatever the problem was. Well, with this transfer station, we have an option to put that waste into one unit, one larger unit, and take it and still be able to dump at no cost to the county. Now, that's not saying we cannot take, commercial waste or anything like that. This is just the waste that we're collecting right now at our convenience centers and taking to the landfill. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm also agreeing with what Commissioner P. just said, but it's also looking at the numbers from Bishop's report today, seeing the timeline ins and outs, waits ranging from 20 minutes to an hour and a half on there. I'd like now to find out kind of what valuation we'd save by minimizing how many trips up there and how many delays, how many man hours we'd save, how many tires we'd potentially save. By doing that as the go-to instead of the what if we're backed up moment.
Hopefully in the near future, we'll have more information on what the transfer station will cost us to run or what it will save us. Right now, we don't have much, so hopefully in the near future, we'll have that. But back to what Commissioner P. was saying about the tires, that'd be quite a big savings just on tires, because it's either, $8,000 or $10,000 a month that we're spending on tires, just tires alone. That's a lot of money. So anxious for the transfer station to get up and running. They're well on the way building it, so looking forward to that. So any other business? I'm sorry, Commissioner Phillips, Chairman Phillips.
I'm not sure I know how to ask this. Maybe I should have asked it when Bishop was up there, but this letter from Republic indicates that they will continue to receive county garbage and trash just the way that they have in the past. Some of the things that I can remember about the transfer station was us taking garbage from private haulers.
Yes.
Instead of those guys paying Republic, they would pay us, help offset the cost of running that transfer station. How's that work? When they were paying Republic, and now they're going to be paying us, and then we're going to take that garbage out to them when they were charging folks before? That question is in my mind, and if I'm not accurate there, somebody correct me. I'm not accurate.
I may have misunderstood.
Steve, you're shaking your head, so
I may have misunderstood, but it was my understanding that the Republic would still take our trash. Those private haulers will be paying to ship that to, I forget the name of the place, but the place that we're going to be shipping our trash to.
so it won't be the county landfill. It'll be some other place.
That was my understanding, yes.
That in essence, we have to pay to take that, correct?
Correct.
So let me get this straight.
And hopefully what we receive from the private haulers, and these private haulers are not the ones that are contracted with Republic. These are the ones that maybe utilize Republic or somewhere else, but they're not under contract with Republic. So we won't be interfering with the contract that we have with Republic.
So it's two different things. Our convenience centers will still ultimately end up in our landfill, Republic landfill, through the transfer station, but private haulers that go through the transfer station will be taken out of county.
Yes, until Republic closes. Until Republic closes.
Thank you.
And to clarify, that's not our recycle materials from our convenience centers. That's only our trash.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chairman, or Commissioner Piercy asked a question early on about the convenience centers and if there was any fund balance left for those. I told him I would do some homework. I looked at my notes for March 22nd, the year 2022, and in those notes I found that we had set aside $11.3 million from fund balance for 4 convenience centers: Walter Hill, Smyrna, Leanna, Rockvale. And I could not find any notes that said anything about extending balances for the entire list of convenience centers. And Bishop did mention just a minute ago that there was still a fund or a balance left in those funds. So perhaps, Mr. Chair, you and Bishop get together and see what kind of monies are left in the pot, and see what would be next on the list in terms of convenience center choices. But my notes say that there was $11.3 million set aside.
Thank you. I'll get with Bishop and the mayor and see what we have left in that and see what their plan is. So, any other business? We stand adjourned.